Team Hard Life, Captain Albright. Wanted to take a second to remind you that the drawing for the free shark fishing trip is still available. All you have to do is get subscribers to subscribe to the channel via the link at the bottom and have them post on there that it was you that referred them there. I think right now the lead is like 15 subscribers, so it's not very hard, but you got to get them to subscribe. So refer the channel, pass on the knowledge, and be the good friend and fishing buddy that everybody needs. Again, too, it's going to be an awesome trip. We got a lot of sharks and big fish out there to catch, so subscribe and give us a thumbs up. We'll see how it goes. Good luck to everybody. See y'all soon. Hard Life Captain Albright here. Finally, after a long period of being a little short-handed here at the shop, but blessed with a lot of orders, we are now able to do the first video of a series of videos. It's probably going to be about a dozen or so videos of us comparing the Extreme Braid versus Jerry Brown hollow core. Both of them will be hollow. Both of them will be the same line class weight, and if not, say we're using the Extreme Braid, we've got the 65-pound hollow core, but it is also the 12 strand. We've got the Jerry Brown 12 strand of the 60 pound. So that ain't going to be too much of a difference. That should show a whole lot of, oh, okay, it's two different weight classes. Yes, it is, but it ain't much. Now, we're also going to have the 100 pound, the 80 pound, and the 130 pound. So to start this series, we're going to start with the biggest reels, which are the 80s. We're going to spool up two with the Jerry Brown 130 pound hollow core. And if you'll step this way, these are the two spools we got. We got 12 strand of the Extreme Braid, 130 pound. Tell there's 3,000 yards on there. Pretty cool color, almost matches my shirt. Almost, but I still like it. So the other color is the 12 strand of the 130 pound, the bright orange. So that's a pretty cool color. We like bright colors on our lines because at night when we're fishing, we like to be able to look up, and with the light we have, be able to see our lines going out. And normally that's one of the first steps in us being able to tell that something is messing with our line is, normally if you have your line straight out like this when you're looking underneath, if you see one start to drift off like that, that tells you a big thing that something is messing with your line, even though it hasn't slacked up and it hasn't taken line. So that's kind of one of the things that we also look for. So those will be some other hints that we'll pass along as we're doing the other videos, but we're going to start with these two. So here's one of the 80s we're going to start with. It's one of our 10-year-old 80s or something like that. It's right up in there. No, take that back. One of our 6-year-old 80s. We got this one back in 96, or 2006 is when we, no, 2018. No. Dan got it back then. Well, either way, I'm going to double check the date on the reel when it was got, because this is a pair of two blue ones that my buddy Damon had got, my tournament partner, and this is one of them. So what we're going to do is, this will be one reel, this will be the other reel that we're going to spool up and get them with the Extreme Braid, so we can be able to tell them real quick, because obviously his looks newer than my reel, but that's okay. We're going to try out the braid. So, you know, that is a good question. So this is for Extreme Braid. If y'all got the hollow core, do y'all have the needles to come with it too? Just saying. Alright, so one of the first tests that I do know about the Jerry Brown is when we start using our rigging needles to splice in, if it has any kind of coating, it tends to stick onto the needle after several tries. You know, as we're sitting here doing this number, it tends to get sticky on the tip of the needle, which kind of makes it hard to get the needle to keep going forward. One of the things I am noticing on this one is it's not doing that, which is a good thing. But like I said, that's still only the first spool. I've had some braids of the Jerry Brown that work just fine when they are color coded. But But it's just one of the things we're going to be looking at. The coating, the thickness, how well it sits, if it has any twist in the line as it's coming off the spool, and so forth. So we've got our knot set up on our spool the way we do the Jerry Brown as well. And this is the extreme braid, and there's 2.9 yards already taken off for the knot, the hollow core spliced back into it, and the braid that's here on the floor or hanging. So here we go. Extreme braid, take one with 80 Avets 2-speed. Let's see how this goes. Here's the first thing we're noticing already, and hopefully I can catch it. Yeah, you can see it right here on the video. You see the twist in the line where it's twisting like this? That is not good. The twist in the braid like that pretty much prohibit the hollow core to act as a hollow core. It's basically closing that hollow core braid. And the only time you really have to worry about this is when you're on shell or sand and stuff like that, because what ends up happening, it'll only go flat so far before it forces it. See how behind my fingers over here it's nice and flat, but over here you see all that twist. But what ends up happening as it's coming over an edge and it's starting to lock all that twist like this, is making it to where it's not doing what it's supposed to do as a hollow core and lay flat. So as it builds up right there, it forces it to have all this twist in there, and that makes it a solid braid, not a hollow core. So as these bumps start to come over that sharp edge, it can cut your braid, which ain't very good. That's not good for us as in the hollow core world. So. Alright, one thing I am noticing is that twist. That's a major issue with me, because since it's not allowing the braid to lay down properly on the spool, basically it's making it a solid braid. So I'm pretty sure that's going to affect the line capacity that we're normally used to. With the Jerry Brown and the 16 strand, we normally get 2,650 yards of line on the reel. Normally that's 2,500 yards of 130 and then 150 yards of 200. Now for the last 150 yards, by jumping up to the 200-pound test, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Only if we jump up to like 500 to 600 yards, then you'll really see the line capacity change. But for the end, we should be able to get at minimum 200 or 2,650 yards total. So we're at 500 yards of braid onto the spool. What I am starting to see on the spool, which is very concerning, is there's a lot of loose line on here, and that scares me. The reason why this scares me, the reason why this line scares me like this is because see how loose it is? We've got to keep pressure on the spool in order to keep it tight to get onto the reel. Because if it's not tight on the reel, it can embed itself like it can on this spool, and it couldn't break us off. what it'll end up doing is it'll embed itself and lock in to where it'll break the line. And that was a real problem with the original solid braids that were out there and coming out, was that when you spooled them up on your reel, that it would be, if they weren't tight enough on the reel, it would embed itself and break it off. And that's why a lot of people were afraid to use the solid braids when they were moving up into getting line capacity as such. And so this is worrying me, but we'll keep going. The other thing, to backtrack a little bit on the twist of the line, as you can tell, it's still there. I felt some areas where it wasn't any of the twist in the line, which is good, but it's bad when it starts to twist, because if you're at home and you got some hollow core braid, twist it up like this, and then run your hand, rub down the line real quick. You'll feel all the bumps in the line as such. The only bad thing about that is when I'm spooling a reel, even after it's been brought back so I can double check it for any frays, is I'm looking for those little bumps in the line. So even though I'm doing it by hand, as you can tell, there's not a lot of coating coming off, which is a good thing, and give props to Extreme Braid for that, because originally when they came out, it was super thick like Power Pro. And what it would do is it would coat up all our gear and make a mess all over our system here, and then it would transfer from one reel to the next reel. If, say, I'm going to the green and I went to the yellow or orange or whatever, it'd be all coated here, and that was a bad thing. But now we've seen where this is a good improvement, so I like that. But these two things, the twist in the braid, and now I can see the looseness in the line off the spool, is the two things that scare me the most so far. Okay, that one felt a little more awkward than the normal twist on the reel. Yep. Going back to the loose spool, as you can tell how it's embedding itself in there. That is not good. I'm hoping that this line doesn't embed itself on this off-coming spool. Got some ugly line in there. See, this is we're trying to avoid too. Now, granted, this happens with all braids. Somehow, through the manufacturing process, extra bits of line will get caught up in there, and you'll get little frays like this. And it doesn't seem like much, but when you're dealing with sharp edges, these are real rough. So it ends up catching those sharp edges, and then you create a cutoff right then and there. So for the best thing for us is I'm going to cut this section out and splice it in and keep going about the spooling. And here's a progress report on the spool. See how much it's loose on the inside? And it's mainly toward the outer edges. In the middle it's pretty good, but as you can tell, that's something. And we're almost at 1,000 yards. So at 1,000 yards, I'm going to go ahead and mark it like I normally do all the other braids. That way we know how much line is left on the spool. That's the 1,000-yard mark. Sorry, I didn't grab the camera. Just mark that. So we'll continue on. Alright guys, so we're at 2,000 yards. We're not filled yet, but I just wanted to, I didn't stop and do this for the 1,000-yard mark, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now real quick. And as you can tell, it's still loose, but we're packed enough to where we haven't had any problems yet. And I'm trying to keep as precise as I would any other spool that was tight like this, just to show you that if it does make a difference or not. But this also goes back to the guys that say that the hollow core braid must always be super tight on your spool. Well, this is tight. I mean, I've got this pretty tight in order to get it off on to get my line tight on the spool. And as you can tell, you can hear how tight it is on my spool. So we're gonna keep rocking and rolling, see how it goes.
Okay, so you turn it on, right? So you see that blue light. Okay. Right.
What blue light?
Oh, this blue light there in the corner.
Okay.
And then see right here, like you'll cycle through it until you see that like red.
How'd you cycle through it?
I just use the mode button in the front, the power button, this one, right? And I just cycle through it, and you go to where you see that.
Okay.
Then whenever you see that, you click OK, and it starts recording.
Ah, there you go. Say what's up, Jeff. What's up? There you go. Okay, and then how do you stop it?
You just click OK.
Which one? Top?
Yes.
So, okay, let me... Alright guys, I'm getting a lesson from my son on how to run a new...
Hi.
Is that a GoPro system, or what is that?
No, it's a knockoff brand Chinese thingamajigger, but it still works. I've actually heard people say that they like this better than the SJ4000.
Nice, nice. Well, we're giving it a shot as well. So, that way we can catch different kind of angles and everything else besides the film y'all see. And what were you saying? That way we can...
Behind there, just turn that off.
No, don't put it there, son. Look, it's gonna rock right off.
No, we'll record it and everything down because it'll be.
How y'all doing?
Someone get up there with? I'm just gonna look for hooks. What kind of hooks? For not shark fishing, regular fishing? One Avets, because I'm from there.
Alright guys, so I've stopped again. I felt something a little strange, and as you can see, there's some blems in the line basically. A lot of times when these big spools are getting spun up and everything, little pieces of fibers and or coating pile up and they get strewn in the braid as it's being put together. So this doesn't disqualify the braid, it's just something you got to pay attention to when you're spooling. Well, we've got 2,650, so that's a good thing. There you go, guys. This is Extreme Braid 2,650, well, 2,651 on an Avet 82 speed with 130 pound, 12 strand. There you go. So, for our first lesson, we've learned a few things. One is we do have a lot of twist in the braid, which we'll find out later how that really will affect it once we're out on the beach. The other thing is too, we found a few flaws in the line, you know, that we were able to fix. But like I said, with all braids, there's going to be that 1% of the line you'll find that will be messed up. So that can't be taken, you know, in a bad way on the braid and stuff like that, because we found it with all types of braid, even the high-end braids on the market. We've always found them like that. Now, the one thing that still always spooks me is how loose that braid is on the spool, but we do have leftover braid, so we'll later strip that down on a counter and find out if it actually has the rest of the braid on there and stuff like that. We don't doubt it won't, but you know, that's just part of one of the tests that we gotta do. And loosen this up, do the closeout knot, and we are good to go. So real quick before I continue, this is the coloring that came off the braid, which is actually very good in comparison to what it used to be. This is a great improvement for the Extreme braid. Hoorah! All right, so again, got 2,651 yards of the Extreme braid. The next reel will be this one, so stay tuned. We got quite a bit of reels to fill up, so later.